Welcome to Louisiana Heartbeats. I'm Sudie Landry, and welcome Facebook people. Sit back, relax. We have a lot of information. I would like to greet and thank George Ramphrey, our new author of the day, for coming in on the show. Thank you, George.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, listen, a lot of people are not aware that you are a man that wears many hats. And the reason I say that, Acadiana, is I met this gentleman and invited him to come on the show. And most of our authors that come on the show have published or are in the process of publishing one book. But then I thought he had 5 books, and he informed me a few minutes ago he has 6 books. So we're here to talk about what he did before he became an author. And as I wrote down and was researching what little bit I could find about you, welcome to the show, George.
Thank you.
Thank you again. I didn't find out as much as we did about talking a while ago. I found out a whole lot more, so I'm going to let you share that. But first of all, Acadiana, this is a gentleman that worked for many years between the states of Mississippi and Louisiana, I believe. Texas, I'm sorry. Texas and Mississippi. And so he has not always been an author. He has been an educator, a teacher, coach, administrator. He's now an author. And it's only since 2014 that he's cranked out 6 books. So anyone out there that has a story inside, just write it, because later on you'll find out writing is the most important thing. Later, as you learn and you have the time and your life of earning a living has come to a certain standstill, you'll have the time to learn how to market your books. So George is here today to share with us that after retirement since 2014, that's when you started writing.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me, was it something overnight, or had you made notes from the past, or what?
You know, I'd always promised myself that when I retired, that I wanted to try to write something.
Okay.
Good, bad, or whatever. I wanted to write something, and I had started writing a book, and a good friend of mine, Dr. Charles Smith, who's at Mississippi College, a professor, he used to come see me on the summers, and when he was there, I just happened to leave something on the computer. He read it and said he liked it, and I was surprised. I didn't know he was going to read it, and he encouraged me. And from there, I said, well, maybe I'm on to something. So I went ahead and finished it, and from there on, that book ended up evolving into a trilogy.
Okay, well, let's give a little bit of history to Acadiana. Acadiana, sometimes we start out in life, we're earning a living, we don't really have a definite plan of, say, I didn't know. I knew I loved to write, but I didn't know. And I had plans of being a writer one day, because it's in my family generational tree, but I had no idea that I'd have a talk show. But then again, with a big mouth, like my grandmother said, it's easier for me to just talk about it and then talk about other people, let them talk. So that seems to be the number one thing. I didn't know that I would have a talk show. So I'm very grateful to Acadiana Open Channel for being able to come in and share other people's dreams and what they're doing. And that's what this platform is about, George. This show is about you and what you've done. So share with the viewing audience let's talk about the first books you started writing. Let's maybe start off with this book right here, Dream on a Hill.
Okay, this is, chronologically, this will be the first because it was in the 1950s. This Dream on a Hill is a fictional account of growing up in the Mississippi Delta in the golden age of the 1950s. David Lee is the main character. As a young boy, constantly needs to be disciplined in order to stay on the straight and narrow path. He lives a rewarding life and experiences the best that the magical decade has to offer, and this includes many outings and adventures like stock car races, wrestling matches, 50s fads, rock and roll music, drive-ins, cruising, and mosquito fog trucks. The author offered an entertaining and humorous portrayal of the dynamics of the family's personal interactions and life in the cotton patch, which is not all wine and roses.
No, it's not.
As the family's confronted with many obstacles and tragedies.
Okay, now let me ask you this. When did you start writing this book, and how long did it take you to actually just finish the story? And that's how we're going to break down each book.
Well, I'm going to say it like in the trilogy. The trilogy I started in March of 2015.
Okay.
And I would say within a year's time I had done all 3.
Just goes to show, just because you're retired, you're not retired. You just got a different season of writing, huh?
Yes, ma'am. But let me, caution potential writers out there and stuff like
Yeah.
this. You know, you write your books, and there's a lot to the editing of it to make sure that you put the best quality product that you can put out there. So I learned my lesson on that route too, of trying to be more careful and not trying to go so fast. And the other thing is the marketing of it. You know, part of that is also part of. It's very important that somebody has to read your books. So you have to be able to know how to market your books correctly.
If I remember correctly, just a few minutes ago, you told me you had written and written and written, but you really hadn't published anything until 2014. So you decided, since you'd written so many over the years, it was now to start marketing. What did you learn right away not to do?
Well, I guess when I moved to Louisiana here in May of this year.
Wow,
and I
okay.
decided to put brakes on things and look and assess things and find out where am I going. And I said, well, I'm going to quit writing for a while, and I'm going to see what I can do about marketing. So I belong to the Texas Authors Institute, and they're Alan Bourgeois in that group, Bourgeois Consulting, very informative and very helpful.
Okay.
In belonging to that group, I belong to the North Texas group, and I'm joining your group too.
Yes,
which
thank
I'm
you so
excited
much.
about. I'd seen that
Well, I am too.
on the internet. I saw your name, and I've been to 2 of your meetings, and I'm on the brink of joining your organization.
That'd be awesome. You'd be a great asset.
And so that's basically what I did. Right now, I'm not writing. I've got one that's a excuse me. I've got one that I'm working on that's a nonfiction book, and that I don't really want to talk about that because I will
Okay.
let it out.
Well, let's just move on to the next book then.
Okay, yes ma'am. Okay, the next book was Song on a Hill. Is a fictional account about the joys and sorrows of growing up in the South in the summer of 1962. And the main character, again, David Lee, 13-year-old Southern boy who employs humor, friendship, and sublimation in order to mask the fact that he's being abused by his stepfather, physically abused. He lives a rewarding but paradoxical life, and his mother Evelyn, his sister Susan, and his brother Ronnie. The exploits and excursions of David Lee and his countless friends are quite typical of young boys that growing up in the Southern culture in that era. The characters come alive by the author employing graphics, entertaining and vivid dialogue and experiences, and the personalities and complexities of the interactions and dynamics of the characters are portrayed in a clever and unique fashion, I hope. The sequence of events and actions flow fluidly and achieve smooth transition. The abuse at the hands of the overbearing stepfather progressively worsens from verbal to physical. And David Lee, through the power of prayer, because I think this is very important, David Lee made it through the power of prayer, and he strove to survive this precarious situation that he was in. And not only that, he tried to hide it from his brother because he didn't want his brother to be part of this. He just thought it was on him, but found out later on in the book that it's going to be affecting the whole family.
Yes.
If he didn't know.
Song on a Hill. That sounds like a very inviting story to read with a good outcome, I'm believing. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next book, Promise on a Hill.
Okay, Promise on a Hill. After the family decides to leave, it's a passionate sequel to Song on a Hill, and it's a depiction of the family's flight, in trying to relocate from the city of Vicksburg in Mississippi to the city of Greenville. Okay, and David Lee takes you on an emotional roller coaster ride of adventure, drama, hardship, and intrigue. It's a coming-of-age tale, and it interweaves politics, sports, music, style, and culture into the fabric of the life of the 1960s. The scenes and actions are vividly portrayed. The inspirational tale tests the resiliency of the human spirit as it investigates the ultimate truths in life. I think the novel is a must-read for anyone who's been victimized in life and challenged by the human condition. I really think it's very important to read that. That there are groups and there are people out there that can help you, and you can't be ashamed, and you can't let a stigma like that in your life dictate who you are. You have to be the captain of your destiny.
Well, I believe that because the terrible heart can be turned into beauty. It's in the Bible. It says it takes our ashes and turns them into beauty. And so, and also to be set free is to be set free indeed. I firmly believe in what the Word of God says. And so therefore I know Promise on the Hill. While you were saying that, just briefly, I'm just going to say, actually, Greenville and Mississippi, that's all my heritage background is in Mississippi.
Okay.
May have been born there, but I've been raised between Arkansas and Mississippi and Louisiana. It's all good now. We're in Lafayette, Louisiana, which you reside in. Where, Breaux Bridge?
I live in Breaux Bridge. I have a Breaux Bridge address, but I've been informed that I'm actually in Cecilia. So I don't know how that works.
Welcome to Louisiana.
But that's what I've been told, and I'm proud to be from both places.
Oh, we're excited.
I love it here.
We're excited. I mean, you fall in love with this place. And your wife is originally, you said,
Yes.
from Breaux Bridge?
She's Breaux Bridge, or Roban.
Yeah, she's returning home, and I'm sure she's glad. Let's go ahead and go to the next book, which is Tales of the Mystic Knights.
Okay.
Bands.
I forgot to tell you that I'm also a musician.
Oh, I forgot about that. I was going to get that later. Go ahead into it, though.
I'm a musician, and my brother and myself, we were in a group. When the Beatles came out, of course, '63 they were there with the assassination of President President Kennedy. They were a little bit later coming to America than they were supposed to. So they had booked a show February the 9th, 1964 on the Ed Sullivan Show. And being a young teenager, of course I was parked right in front of the TV there, and I was listening to John, Paul, George, and Ringo as they started singing all their hit songs, and just it captivated me as it did America. So I couldn't wait to buy a guitar and try to learn how to play and try to start a group. So that's
you played the accordion too last night.
I do play the accordion too.
All right, so you fit right on in.
Well, I play the accordion because my wife, on my birthday, when they brought me a button accordion, and I said, wow, what am I going to do with this? And I love Cajun music. I mean, I just love it. And so I'm going to say I play at it, because I'm not, when I hear these guys around here play, I mean, it's like, oh, wow.
Got to start somewhere. It doesn't matter. It still sounds good.
You got to start, and I did. I played for all the Papados restaurants in the Dallas area. We played for about 10, 12 years.
Wow.
Every weekend that we played, and really enjoyed it, and played a lot of private gigs and all through North Texas.
So, I firmly believe now, sitting here, I'm looking at you, yep, people like people and always stay busy, and you just went into a different area. So what about this band? What's it about?
Well, it's a raucous account, and it's called the Mystic Knight Tales of the Mystic Knights Band of Brothers. And my brother was in the group. He's a singer who had a great voice, and all the way from Song on the Hill, he was sort of incorporated there. But we all became real good friends, and we learned through our hard knocks that at first you don't succeed, you just keep practicing. And we actually got pretty polished and did real well, and started playing. And so 64 through 68 we had the group, and all the raucous accounts of the things that young boys do, growing up, in the gigs that we played, and some of the adventures that we had. That's basically what
Oh, I'm from the 60s. Yes, I remember
from the 60s.
all that.
And it talks about, songs from the Beatles and the Zombies and the Animals and the Dave Clark Five and so forth and so on. It was a lot of fun to write. In fact, one of my good friends, John Howard Dennis, plays in a group called The Chill out of Vicksburg. He still plays.
The Chill? Hey.
The Chill.
Okay.
And they're a very good group, one of the best groups in Mississippi now. And he plays with them, and he never gave it up, which good for him. He's really a great musician.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So that pretty well shares. What is the story about? Is it about the different entertainers of the city, or your group?
No, it's our group. It's basically our interactions between the members of the group growing up together. I incorporated some family life in there, the music that was being played during that time. I tried to capture the spirit of the 60s.
Okay, so who is the picture of? Is that your band?
This is actually a picture of the group.
You look like the Beatles up there. That's what I was looking at.
It's sort of like had a dingy sort of Rolling Stones looking away.
Yeah.
That's me in the back row there,
Okay,
sort of leaning over
yeah. All right,
on that custom piano or custom organ. That's Kenny Beatonhorn next to him.
Wow, that really looks good.
And then next to him, my brother, that's John.
Okay.
John Ramphrey. And that's John Howard I was talking about with that Moss Wright guitar there.
Okay.
And that he told me the other day he wished he had that because it's worth bukus of money.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
And this is my good friend Andy McMillan. This is the bass player that's sitting down I talk to him
That's a
all
great
the time.
picture. I'm sure he's.
And I really love these guys. I mean, we're really close. And
Well, the photography on there really looks awesome. I
Yeah,
mean,
that was
really
a-
looks
that
like
was a-
that era.
well, it was a picture from
That's what I'm
1967.
saying. It looks great.
And the three that are still there are myself, John Howard, and Andy, and my brother and Kenny are deceased.
Okay.
But they're still in our hearts
memories.
and our thoughts every day. Memories every
keep
day.
them alive every day, every day.
It does.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and move to the next book.
Okay, the next book was I went on a different tangent altogether. I said, I've always, one of my favorite cities, if not my favorite city in America, is New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Love New Orleans. And so I wrote a book of mystery and romance in New Orleans called Locked Arms, which has a little double entendre there. The Locked Arms, because it indicates romance, it also talks about some pistols. And Frank Robinette is the main character in New Orleans. This is in the 1980s. He's a divorced high school teacher, and he falls in love with fellow teacher Janelle Richard. But she's unhappily married to a crooked attorney. Can you imagine? Adam Stone, who has political aspirations, and strange and horrible things begin happening. Frank comes up missing as he and Janelle have an affair. And Frank comes up with his friend Drake Landry.
Hey,
Hires a part-time detective, Ralph Simeon, who's an African American. He's a hero of the story, and he investigates into Frank's disappearance. It takes him sleuthing in New Orleans and San Francisco. Now, Semi was a big guy, about 6'4", 260, that played linebacker at Southern University.
Okay.
And they called him Semi because he was like a semi-truck. So, but the thing was, he was like a Bubba. He had the big cowboy hat, he chewed tobacco, and he always had a picture of his mom in his pocket. And he was quite a character. And guess what jersey he wore everywhere he went?
What?
New Orleans Saints.
Well, oh boy.
Surprise, surprise. Even when he went to 49er country in San Francisco, he wore that.
Wow.
So in this, I did it sort of like points of view. I had the point of view of Frank and Janelle, and of two other characters, of course, being Simeon and Harry, who was another character, and they all told their stories, and the stories parallel each other.
Okay.
And it was the same story, but they're telling it from their point of view. And then I tied in toward
Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting. That's a
Yeah.
good spin.
So it's a different spin on this one. So it was like, I had to really be careful in this book because you don't want to fool yourself sometimes. So that was the crux of this book.
Well, I want to
really
add
enjoyed
something
it.
real quick, that
Yes, ma'am.
whenever I was printing out some things, that was, I had to read what you'd written about it before I could figure out where was the title of the book. Then I realized Locked Arms. I had to figure out the title because the printout didn't tell me the title, but I got the readout of what the book was about. And coming from the female view, it sounded very interesting,
Yeah.
so.
Well, let me
Yeah.
add to the other thing about the Locked Arms was that Frank didn't let people know that he was a multimillionaire. He just wanted to live a basic life. And he had locked in his vault, he had some pistols that Lafayette had given to George Washington.
Okay.
And he had those pistols locked up, and they were worth a lot of money. So that's the other part of the Locked Arms.
I'm glad you said that because sometimes people ask, well, how do you come up with the title of the books? Somewhere, even if the whole story didn't say anything, that title somehow ends up in the books at the right place. And so that, what you just said?
Yes.
Locked up. Yeah,
Okay.
That's it, but arms.
Great.
Okay, and is there anything else you want to share about this book, or you want to move on to the next book?
Only that, like I say, it was a lot of fun to write, and I think if somebody wanted to get into the book, wanted to be entertained, that this would be a good.
So what genre do you tend to want to write in all the time?
Well, I was trying
Fiction?
to test myself. The first three were fiction. Of course, the trilogy, and then this was really considered to be memoirs, The Tales of the Mystic Knights.
Right,
I consider that
okay.
memoirs, and this would be mystery and romance, which, I
That
tried
takes
it
a
out.
talented author to write. I'm not that kind of author. I'm memoirs. I'm inspirational. I'm nonfiction. But I can write, but my gift is basically inspirational.
Well, it was difficult to write because, you know, you're taking something, whereas you can take life's experiences and sort of, in your memoirs and in your fiction, you can sort of emulate you or use the character and so forth. But when you get to a different deal like a mystery and romance, and it's completely, you're writing it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can be.
So that was your first in that genre?
Yes, ma'am. My
As far
first
as to write in that genre, right?
Yes,
there.
ma'am, exactly. In
Well,
mystery
we have
and
about
romance.
4 minutes left in the show, so let's move on to the next
Okay.
books.
Well, the next one I'm proud of. I told you that.
That one I didn't know anything about because it was not on my printout. Tell me about it.
Okay, this is called Meandering Kudzu, and it's a collection of Southern short stories.
Okay.
And just like a kudzu is in everybody's life, it grows everywhere. You can't get rid of it. You know, once you get kudzu in the South, you know, we brought it in from Japan to help the erosion problems, and the root systems is like glaciers. Most of it's underground. You're not seeing the tip of the iceberg, in other words. So if you look underground, that's where the root system is, and you can see the kudzu is growing all through here and taking over the houses. Well, these stories were the same way. These were stories I thought were so powerful that they took over. They were important for every Southerner's life.
Okay.
And I was, when I first entered this, because I said when I quit writing and I decided to move here, I decided to try to market my books a little bit. And at first I got a second place in North Texas Book Festival Book Award.
Wow,
on this
what a
book.
great start.
Well, thank you. And then Texas Authors, I got the first place in their short story division.
Well, it sounds like your marketing's jumping fast.
Well, I was proud that happened. Of course, a lot of these I never entered because I was so busy writing, I wasn't trying to do, and that goes to other writers, or if you're interested in trying to get into writing, you know, there's more to writing than just writing. You have to also market your books.
That's right. That's right. Okay, and so that sounds like a great variety of different little stories, and congratulations. What year was that? 2000?
This was actually just made in 2017.
Okay,
Last
great.
year.
We have 3 minutes left in the show, so we're going to go to the next book.
Okay, well, this is the last book that I'm going to talk about.
Okay, then. All right.
And just let you know some of the different stories in there.
Okay, go ahead.
Overview, a sense of place. It talks about Mississippi itself.
Okay.
Because that's where I grew up. In my 30s, I moved out to Texas and became an administrator, coach, and so forth, as I mentioned. But I had taught for 13 years in Mississippi before I moved.
What did you teach?
I taught social studies, and I coached baseball, cross country, swimming,
Okay. Wow.
and enjoyed it. And enjoyed really my being with children or students and challenging them. That was really important, and I miss that a lot every day.
Well, before the show starts closing out, are you going to read us something from there? Is it stories a little bit long? Because I think we're about maybe 2 minutes left in the show.
Well, if you want to, I can say the table of contents with stories about it. Does that be okay?
Yeah, that'd be fine. That'd
Okay.
be fine.
All right, A Sense of Place is all about Mississippi. If you want to know about it, it gives the geography of it, the topography of it. It tells about the people, and I have a little part in there where I actually got to meet Eudora Welty when I worked in a library in Jackson there, and we used to, and Dr. Margaret Walker Alexander, I got to
Okay.
meet her. I took a course at Jackson State, a writing course, and of course she's a famous author, and I talked about it in there. I had a story, a bubble off plum. If you do any carpentry, you know that a bubble off plum, you want the bubble to be just right. for your
Well,
level.
unfortunately, we won't be able to go through all of them, but
Okay,
I
fine.
do want to remind that Facebook people and also Acadiana Open Channel viewing people that if you would like more information about where George is going to be in the future, possibly events he's going to be part of, then you can email him or basically check out his website, which was up on the screen a few minutes ago. I personally, at this point, do not have, I do have it. Okay, Amazon.com/George-Ramphrey. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. As you can see, the graphics are rolling. Is there anything you'd like to say at the closing of the show?
Just
Anything in particular, shout out, appreciation?
Well, just to say that I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on your program, and I really enjoyed it. And
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to living in Acadiana, and maybe meet some of you guys one day.
Well, I'm looking forward to having more stories on you, so thank you, Katie Ann, for watching. Until next time, thank you for being on the show again.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Susan.